Imagine receiving news so devastating that your world seems to collapse, only for it to reveal an entirely new horizon. This is the premise of Kate Chopin's iconic short story, The Story of an Hour. A masterful exploration of marriage, personal freedom, and the complex emotions tethered to societal expectations. At a mere 1,000 words, Chopin's writing is a succinct yet profound piece of feminist literature, encapsulating a lifetime's worth of questions about identity, love, and autonomy, and delivering a heartbreakingly ironic twist that leaves readers stunned. The story begins with Louise Mallard, a woman afflicted with a fragile heart, receiving shocking news. Her husband, Brentley Mallard, has died in a tragic train accident. Her sister Josephine and Brentley's friend Richards are hesitant in breaking the news to her, careful to shield Louise from any sudden stress. However, once Louise hears those words, that her husband is gone, she breaks into uncontrollable sobs, retreating to the solitude of her bedroom. What happens next is a revelation so daring that it remains timelessly relevant. Louise, sitting quietly by her open window, finds her thoughts shifting in an unexpected direction. At first, there is sorrow, a weight pressing on her chest, but then she notices the sights and sounds of the world beyond her room. A fresh breeze sweeps in, trees sway under the spring air. Life outside continues as though she has been handed an invitation to begin again. Slowly, painfully, feelings of grief give way to something startling: freedom. True, unrestrained freedom.
Free, free, free.
What Chopin achieves in this moment is the creation of an emotional watershed. Louise's sense of liberty isn't a denial of love or sorrow, it's an acknowledgement of the suffocation she has felt under the institution of marriage. Chopin's portrayal of Louise reveals layers of complexity. She loved her husband at times, but her existence was wrapped tightly in the role of being someone else's wife. For the first time, Louise realizes her life will be her own, unbound by the shackles of societal expectations, the compromises of marital duties, and the quiet erosion of her independence. Louise's relief feels like a rebellion, not against Brentley personally, but against what his role represented, the control, whether intentional or not, that marriage imposed upon her. Standing at the precipice of a new life, she envisions years ahead filled with self-direction, unclaimed by anyone but herself. However, this empowerment carries an unspoken critique of 19th-century conventions, when women's roles were largely confined to domesticity and subservience. Chopin's Louise serves as a quiet but potent symbolic figure, challenging the oppressive ideals of her time. But the crescendo of this freedom is short-lived. In one of literature's cruelest twists of irony, Brentley Mallard walks through the door, alive and completely oblivious to the train accident that was supposed to have claimed his life. He is unharmed, unaware, and cheerful. The sight of her husband sends Louise into complete shock, and in that instant, her soaring anticipation comes crashing down. She collapses and dies, the doctors announcing somberly that her weak heart could not bear the joy that kills. The brilliance of Chopin's irony lies in this final diagnosis. Joy becomes a cruel misinterpretation. Louise does not die from the happiness of seeing her husband alive. She dies from the emotional whiplash of having her freedom snatched away at the very moment she begins to taste it. Chopin's piercing commentary reveals the limitations imposed on women, not just in life, but in their emotional agency. It's a devastating ending, where liberation is no longer possible, not in life or even in death. As we reflect on The Story of an Hour, several themes emerge, each one begging deeper contemplation. At its core is the juxtaposition of freedom and oppression, the sweet, painful irony of Louise finding brief liberation within circumstances rooted in tragedy. Chopin reveals how societal structures, particularly marriage, can feel binding for women struggling to maintain their identity against the expectations imposed upon them. The theme of marriage itself is central to the narrative. Chopin's story dares to examine one of society's most sacred institutions, questioning whether love alone is enough for fulfillment, and whether marriage can unintentionally stifle the individuality of its participants. Louise Mallard's fleeting sense of freedom underscores not only her yearning for autonomy, but also a universal desire to escape the societal roles often tied to marital unions. A feminist undercurrent flows strongly through the story, placing Louise Mallard as a quiet protester against the status quo. Her joy at newfound independence challenges the traditional view that women's ultimate happiness should stem solely from their relationships with men. In Chopin's era, such views teetered precariously between the radical and the revolutionary. The story of an hour gives voice to unspoken frustrations, the yearning many women felt for independence in a world designed to limit their choices. Of course, Chopin's use of irony transforms the story's final moments into unforgettable commentary. Louise's death, the abrupt conclusion of her imagined freedom, is labeled by the male doctors as caused by excessive joy, further layering the patriarchal misunderstanding of her true emotional reality. The irony is sharp, revealing society's inability to grasp or validate the inner struggles of women striving for agency. Symbolism deepens the narrative at every turn. The open window Louise sits by symbolizes the promise of her new life, a view unobstructed and filled with possibilities. Contrast that with her heart, which serves as a tangible reminder of the strain placed upon her by societal norms. The heart is both fragile and rebellious, ultimately unable to reconcile the physical and emotional demands forced upon it. Please adapt this chapter as is. What remains so extraordinary about The Story of an Hour is how Chopin crafts a narrative that transcends time, bridging the 19th century struggle for equality to modern debates on gender roles and autonomy. Louise Mallard's fleeting glimpse of freedom resonates with anyone who has ever felt confined by societal expectations, longing for a world where their voice and choices are their own. Through her masterful use of irony, symbolism, and bold exploration of themes, Kate Chopin delivers a piece that is both timeless and transformative. The Story of an Hour may end in tragedy, but its impact lies in the questions it raises and the truths it reveals. It reminds us that freedom, however brief, allows us to glimpse possibilities we may not have dared imagine. And while Louise Mallard's liberation is cut devastatingly short, her story continues to inspire conversations about what freedom truly means. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.